Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Adam Emmert. I'm joined by my good buddy Clinton Bonner. And Clinton, you'd gotten with me here maybe like Friday or so and said, "Hey, this weekend let's talk a little training camp." And you had some ideas of things to go through here. We're going to talk a little bit about wide receivers having big camps and what that looks like. A little Byron Murphy, a little bit of Anthony Bradford, and we'll do it without disparaging him for a change.
I think so.
Also, too, with the wide receivers having big camps, should we be concerned about any of the DB play? We're going to talk a little bit about Jalen Milroe and some of the reports we've heard about him. And not that we have anything new on the Robbie Ouzts front, but it's not something I've talked about. So those are all topics we're going to get into. Clinton, you did an awesome job curating all this. Man, lots of news, lots of action happening in training camp.
Tons of action. We got action early here as we got Dogzilla Monster saying the biggest storyline so far, D-Hall's big truck, and of course the shorts, which we all love. What's up, Dogzilla? Good seeing you there. But yes, it says 4 biggest camp stories. We talked about it. Scratch that. We're going to go, is that, I'm not sure what the percentages
5,
are.
6, 7. I don't know. Until we're done talking about big stories.
It'll be more big stories, big humans, big movements. And we had a lot happening. Plus we had the scrimmage, the fan fest, and that just added some ideas to the fire as well. But you ran that down them perfectly. Adam, I really want to always remind people, of course, first and foremost, if you're out there, like and subscribe. That's great. We love you. Please do the thing. But Adam, this entire offseason, I'm pretty sure did the Rams win a Super Bowl? Because the entire offseason, I thought it was the Rams that maybe won the Super Bowl because it's just so Rams-centric. Am I wrong? Is that not what happened?
Oh, hadn't you heard? They bought a Super Bowl already. It's done. Like they won. It's over. I don't even know why we're doing training camp at this point. Like we should just forfeit the rest of the games going forward. Is what I heard. Even though that we're world champs.
Yeah,
we're the champions.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for reminding me because I saw this image back on Twitter and the interwebs of the ring we have that says we won the Super Bowl last year and we're the current Super Bowl champions. So just want to remind folks that we are, of course, the champions, not the stupid Rams. And I just don't care what they do. We don't play them till Christmas. I care what they do, but we're going to beat them anyway. And we'll get into some of those reasons, I think, even why in this episode. We do have some news and notes to get through that will not be the 6 topics you teased at the top. So hang around for all 6 of those. But a couple of things that I thought were at least interesting going from left to right on screen. Adam, first thing is Greg Bell's reporting that Emmanwori is still about 4 weeks out. And if I'm doing some fast math, that really puts week 1, week 2 kind of in jeopardy if he's 4 weeks out. How you feeling about the newest news there?
Just be here week 8. Like, that's all I care about. Like, just be here by week 8 and we're good to go.
Week 8? That's pretty far. No.
I know it's pretty far. That's how loaded this team is. That's how many games they can win going into week 8. We want him for the back half at the very least and rolling into the playoffs. Now, could he be here much sooner? Absolutely. Would that be perfect? Yes. Let's do that, please. But there is zero concern on my part. They will get Nick Emmanwori back when it's time for him to be back, when he's healthy, and he will be a demon on the field once again. So,
great.
It's one of those things where, look, there's other players that they can use in that kind of nickel, do everything position, whether that's Spoon or we're talking a lot of D'Anthony Bell being used in that role here in camp. There's options for Mike McDonald. And since he's a bona fide genius, I'm pretty sure that we'll be fine.
All right. We'll talk more about that when we do talk about the DB room and the corners, et cetera, et cetera. And look, I want Spoon back not Spoon. I want Emmanwori back way sooner. Not saying you don't. I know you do, but I'm not willing to wait till week 8. I'm just not going to do it. On the right-hand side, we got some Jadarian Price updates. Basically, seems like no big deal. Some soreness, Mike Mack actually kind of like laughed it off a bit. He kind of made a light joke about it in the presser after the fanfare day there. And I don't think it's something you'd be joking about, Adam, if it were any more serious. But from Mike's lips, he's basically saying this is a couple of day thing, nothing more than that. A little bit of relief from my standpoint. How about you?
Oh, for sure. Because we're all looking at the running back position and we're relying on Price with the loss of Kenneth Walker, no doubt about it. And look, when I heard the first part of this, leg soreness, it was like, okay, they're not talking about like an injury. We're talking about a rookie who's ramping up his usage throughout his first NFL training camp while he was the backup back in college and didn't even get the full starter reps back then. Yeah, probably is going to get a little sore at some point, maybe need a day or two. That's part of the rookie adjustment to the NFL. And it really does kind of hit all the guys, and you just manage it smartly. And it sounds like that's exactly what they're doing. Mike not worried, me not worried.
Me not worried either. I like that. And we got Rubbles coming in saying, bro, I'm telling you, the Rams are overrated. They're going to disappoint, much hype and all those things. Look, I hope so. I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they're overrated. I don't, they were a good team. I'm not sure they are over or underrated, but I can tell you the hype is all about them. And I'm at this point, I'm rolling over to it's beyond fine. I think the Seahawks team, and we'll talk about Byron Murphy in a little bit later. I think he is one of those emblematic players that's probably embracing the fact that even after a Super Bowl, there's, we as a franchise still not getting the limelight, and a player like Murphy still not getting the kudos that he deserves, while, people put some love onto Jalen Carter. And frankly, from my point of view, he's a better player than Carter, but we'll get to that. And we got Shane Turner Acoustic coming in. He said with a $2.99 Australian super chat saying, any word on who would be outside if Spoon is playing nickel? They got a couple different options, there. It could be Nehemiah Pritchett. There's a few younger players there as well. I'm going to butcher the name until I get it right, Adam. The DB with the hard to pronounce last name. It's still not crisp in my brain. So
nope.
Yeah, him. I think we all know who that is.
Ogunagabi, we'll get it, man. We'll put some respect on that man's name at some point here.
Exactly. Yeah. We're not trying to be like that. It's just I haven't worked into my brain just yet. But I think those are the two options, Shane. Maybe there's some others there. We did see a report just before we got on that Terrion Arnold, the kind of the Detroit high round pick, is coming in for a visit. He really washed out with the Lions really rather quickly. He's coming to camp, and I don't know about you, Adam, but a Mike McDonald maybe rehab on a high talented DB that kind of just flamed out maybe in the wrong situation. At least I'm intrigued. Color me intrigued on something like that.
Well, you ought to be, because of the history that the Seahawks have shown under John Schneider's leadership, and when Pete was here, and now with Mike McDonald here, they've gotten a lot out of corners. I mean, Josh Jobe, we're not talking about Josh Jobe, right? We're like, oh, we got one of the spots locked down.
Correct.
Josh Jobe was a dude that the Eagles let go. He was at the bottom of their depth chart, and now he is a full-time starter for the Seahawks and a damn good player. You think about Kendricks last year and what they did with him. Mike McDonald is able to develop these guys and put them in position to look good. Not to mention, how do you make a back end of a defense look better just almost instantaneously, Clinton?
When you put pressure on the quarterback and you stop the run. Yeah.
You have badasses up front on the D line that generate a lot of pressure and make things really difficult. And then if you have somebody who's a legitimate top one schemer in this league when it comes to defense, putting all those guys in the right position, it sure does allow you to get the most out of guys that maybe struggled at some other point. And you're talking about Terrion Arnold a little bit. And look, one of the things Mike's super famous for is his ability to take something super complicated, distill it down into something that players are able to understand. And I heard DeMarcus Lawrence talking about how there's basically, for one play call, 10 plays could be run out of that, right? Mm-hmm. But yet it's clear, it's simple, it's something they can do. And that's what makes these guys look like they have 12 dudes on the field. Look, you bring in somebody like Terrion Arnold, maybe let's see, who would it have been? It would have been not Terry Glenn. It was the current coach of the Jets, the former cornerback.
Aaron Glenn,
not Terry. Yeah. Aaron Glenn. Maybe his defense wasn't explained well. Maybe it was too complicated for Terrion Arnold. This could be a spot where he comes in and we get the best version of him, whatever that is. Maybe that's backup level. Maybe that's starter level. Maybe that's not even on the 53. Maybe that's part of the ready squad. Hard telling, not knowing at this point, but worth a flyer.
Yeah, I think so too. We'll see. There's a little bit of character concerns, and that's why he's available. Beyond also the play wasn't. Look, we all know in the NFL, like if there are quote unquote character concerns, but you're amazing at your job, you don't lose your job in the NFL. You might have to go into, what's the thing they made Puka go do? That's not actually rehab. What's that? Whatever they call that thing, right? So that
fake rehab.
Yeah, fake rehab. There you go. So they throw you into fake rehab nowadays and say, oh yeah, he's getting the help he needs. If you're really great at football, you find your way on the field. That's just the facts of life. But maybe the reclamation project, we'll see. We probably spent 2 minutes too long on Terrion Arnold, seeing as he's coming in for a visit. We will keep you posted. I did have this information too, because not only I'm going to change the slide in a second for those on YouTube, and for those listening on audio, we are going to play a game this week versus the Dallas Cowboys. It's preseason game 1. But Adam, I started to look ahead, and I don't take joy in doing this, but it's part of just kind of reporting what's happening across different camps. What's on screen here is a key player from week 3, week 6, and week 8. It's kind of funny you flagged week 8 for Emmanwori, because we'll talk about that guy on the right-hand side on this slide last. But first and foremost, week 3, Laremy Tunsil tore his triceps. He's out for, maybe the whole year. He's out for significant portions. They have problems keeping Jaden Daniels upright to begin with. They just lost their tackle they brought in. Bad news bears for this Commanders team. That's week 3, very, very early. Benefit for Seattle, and you feel for Tunsil and the Commanders fans.
Oh, for sure. And you hit it right on the head with the Commanders having a hard time keeping Jaden Daniels from taking those big hits and having those big injuries. And, we saw the Seahawks injure him last time that we played, right, with the elbow. So, and I'm a big Jaden Daniels guy. He was my number 1 quarterback in that draft class coming in. Love his game, love what he can do. It'll probably help that they won't have Kingsbury there in running his rinky-dink Mickey Mouse offense that would get him killed. But Tunsil's a huge loss, man, a huge loss. And get well to him, no doubt about it. And we'll see what happens for the poor Commanders there.
Yeah, really good player. He's been around a long time now, and hope he heals as quick as he can. Benefit for our Seahawks come week 3. And then there's a couple just to look at. Jalen Waddle is still limping. He's got an injury. And so they're saying it could be multiple week. He might be back pretty darn soon. So I'm not going to put too much emphasis on this one right now, but Waddle was a big offseason get for the Broncos, who really need a little bit more additional help. I see a waiver in there. The papers say, the Pravda says a big offseason get. But Waddle might be out. I think even potentially more significant, maybe a better player. Luther Burden of the Chicago Bears, he tweaks a groin just yesterday, and he was having, from all reports, a sensational camp where it's like, this dude is on the cusp. And I think he showed a lot last year. Week 8's halfway through the year. It's a groin. They can be very, very tricky, but you got 2 weapons here that now we got to keep on the radar, because they might not be, maybe they're in, but maybe not 100% like running the way these guys intend to run.
Well, let's hope for Luther's sake the groin is less tricky than more tricky. That's for sure. And as you put it, early returns for Luther Burden, they looked promising. And so that is a blow for them. Jalen Waddle, a big addition for the Broncos.
They paid it like it was. They paid heavy for that.
Him and T. Higgins can go to their own little island of the most overrated number 2s in the entire freaking league. Like, I just wake me when you've done something that actually matters, like for real, with Jalen Waddle. Once Tyreek Hill was toast down there in Miami, what happened to that offense?
Well, yeah, the whole thing went sideways. So for sure. Yeah. So, and Waddle had some nice years with Hill as a nice complimentary too. But I also thought the Broncos overpaid when they went and got him this offseason too. So I wasn't super high on that. And his thing is speed and, just getting open, kind of quickness and some good amount of speed. And if he's dinged, if he's not 100% operational, I'm not sure he's all that effective. So again, something to watch with these upcoming opponents. And also Broncos, one of the tougher opponents. And I think the Bears will be one of the better teams we face this year as well. Certainly an ascending team. And of course, you don't know how the season's going to go. But I think, Adam, that takes us. Yeah. Oh, one more reminder that we're Super Bowl champions. We're going to take it back over here to the full screen. So we got those are the news and notes. We want you liking. We want you subscribing. All those things are to keep the comments pouring in. We appreciate it. But we teased 6 topics at the beginning. Adam, where would you like to begin?
Let's get through wide receivers first.
Get through the language, please, Adam. The languge. Get through. All right. So
I chose the words on very specifically. I did.
I know you do. All right. So the way I'll frame it real quick from my perspective. My perspective was last year in camp. You heard a lot of the Seahawks are getting no separation. We brought in Horton. He was just a rookie 5th rounder. And the Seahawks are having a hard time getting separation throughout camp last year. Okay. JSN then goes and wins Offensive Player of the Year. He got some separation during the season. But this year it's almost like flip the script, where there is a lot of open wide receivers and certain players that we'll talk about just maybe having really strong camps. So how are you feeling about this wide receiver room, and is the buzz worthy, I think, is maybe the question.
Wide receiver room is loaded. And it's funny because the buzz isn't around the guys that make this bona fide loaded, right? Like,
yeah,
the buzz isn't around JSN, who's
right.
the best receiver in football and the reigning offensive player of the year. The buzz isn't around Rashid Shaheed, who just got paid and was a big addition on special teams and had some moments offensively and seems to be really clicking with Sam Darnold here through training camp. We're getting a little buzz about Shaheed, to be fair, right? Torrey Horton coming in and doing some good stuff, coming back from injury and looking good. And, even Cooper Kupp having a nice training camp to this point. But the buzz, Clinton, is about some of the guys closer to the back end of the roster, or potentially towards the back end of the roster. And that's interesting because, look, this isn't an easy defense to go up against, but you've got a damn good quarterback who is comfortable in a system with guys that he feels comfortable throwing to. And so you're going to get a lot of completions and that sort of thing. Also, too, just remember these guys towards the back of the roster that we're going to talk about here, whether that's Foster or Henderson, those would be the two that come to mind. They're going up against mainly the 3s and the 4s, and maybe even guys that aren't going to be with this team when training camp is all said and done. So is it a positive thing that you're hearing good things about these players? Yes. Do I believe it until I see them at least suited up in preseason? No. And that's kind of like with anything that comes out of training camp. I've been doing this for 13 years now, Clinton, and there's years I've been just bamboozled by the, hype during the offseason and training camp. And I know enough these days to be like, cool news. We'll see.
Yeah. I think it's very easy to get excited, especially in training camp, about wide receivers. And I guess the juxtaposition of last year where it's like, we can't get separation, to like, oh, this looks a heck of a lot smoother. Bar kind of sans the actual scrimmage from yesterday, which was more of a defensive day, it sounded like, versus the offense really humming. But you mentioned Foster, you mentioned Henderson, Cody White still doing really well out there. These are dudes like with Foster. I think he pronounced his name Montori.
That feels right.
Yeah, I think it's Montori, I believe, right? Foster Jr. And if I have that wrong, please correct. And every time you turn on Twitter or something, even they're not talking about him too much publicly, but everybody else who's watching it's like, this guy's every day making huge plays. It is a little easy to get excited about wide receivers when it's not full go. And the DBs can't do everything that they're actually going to do out there. And if a quarterback lays out a hospital ball and a guy plucks it out of the air, but it's like, in the game, a safety is going to take that guy's head off. Right. And it's actually not a ball that you want to throw. Not saying that's what's happening, but that's the kind of stuff you get in training camp, just because you're not, taking dudes' heads off at that point. It is exciting. It's easy to get excited about that crew. I do want to pivot back to the buzz, and I'm going to go back there for Cooper Kupp, because it's a little bit about, hey, he really looks youthful more youthful this year than last year, like quicker, like so all the things we love about the Coach Kupp and all that jazz. Cool. But I'm kind of excited to hear, hey, he just looks like he regained a year or two in terms of his quickness, which is part of his game. I know you're the biggest Cooper Kupp fan, but how's that news hit you compared to last year?
5 pounds heavier, faster than ever, blah, blah, blah. That's how that news hits me. Is Cooper Kupp young or old?
Well, relatively.
For football.
He's older, but he's in great shape. These dudes stay in remarkable shape
nowadays.
Back,
Clinton. It doesn't come back. The quick twitch stuff does not come back. So really what the explanation is this, because Kupp's biggest asset by far, and it was on full display in Hard Knocks, and it was on full display last year with the way that he unlocked JSN and helped Torrey Horton develop and how he's worked with Shaheed over the offseason here. It's his brain. That is the number one thing that really sets him apart from almost anybody else who's playing the position these days. So one more year in this system, in that sort of familiarity, he's going to look faster because he processes that much more quickly and is able to get his body moving that direction a little faster. Is he faster? There's a 0% chance he's faster this year.
Okay. All right.
Like, you don't get older and get faster.
Well,
you don't.
Amy was there. Amy's on screen. She was there.
Sure.
We love Amy. She says,
I love Amy.
Seriously, I know you do. Kupp seriously looks way faster than last year. Now, is it possible that, yes, he was healthy last year, but maybe he wasn't 100% up to his health standards? We just didn't know about it. That's a possibility, right? I mean,
yeah, sure. When you have receivers that we can all agree that Kupp isn't Triple Crown Kupp, right? Like where he was.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to be hyperbolic about it.
Exactly.
I'm looking on the edges, looking around the edges a bit. And really, for me, the question and debate is, where do all these footballs go? Like that's whether Kupp is a smidgen faster or not. He's more successful in an offense with year two. You know, if we're playing the more likely game, maybe that's more likely and totally cool. But where are these footballs going with Horton doing what he's doing, with the bench we have, with Arroyo having a very nice camp, AJ Barner not even sniffing the field just yet, but we know he's due back and he'll be on time. And we have a not head coach, offense OC that likes to get the ball in the hands of running backs, clearly, right? So, or at least coming from a system that did a lot of that. I'm just like, where are all these footballs going to go? Because I don't think there's enough to go around with the depth we have. So that's really where, for me, that I think is more interesting than the gradient of Kupp's, maybe getting a little better on the edges.
Yeah. Look, that's kind of why I'm not losing my mind about, Foster and Henderson and the cool stuff that they've been doing through training camp, because whose minutes are they taking? Like, it's hard to find them. Hard to find those snaps that they would take and those balls that they would catch outside of, your top 3 or 4 guys. I did want to pull up here a comment from our good buddy Michael Knight. Adam, it's ridiculous to say you don't get faster, man. If you had nagging injuries last season and they are gone now. Cooper Kupp's had nagging injuries for the last 4 years. You don't magically become physically better as a whole as you age in the NFL. This isn't quarterback, right? Like where Tom Brady blew the lid off of, okay, you can get old and be super productive. This is receiver. So when I was asking you earlier, he's not triple crown Cooper Kupp, right?
No, he's not.
Like,
no.
Okay. So like we've seen the peak, we've seen where it's been, and the production has steadily been in decline. A little bit of a bounce back last year because he did manage to stay healthy, not being as much of a focal point of the offense as he was when he was with the Rams. Now, with that said, I remember peak DeAndre Hopkins. And then when D-Hop goes to Tennessee, was he still D-Hop? No. Like, I remember Julio Jones when he left and goes to Tennessee. He didn't magically get faster and find it again. Mike Evans isn't going to magically find the fountain of youth next to the substation and become faster and more durable and all that. Cooper Kupp is an exceptional human. Cooper Kupp is an exceptional wide receiver and has had an exceptional career and has been an absolute godsend in terms of the knowledge and mentality that he has brought to this team, and is really a big reason why we are current Super Bowl champions. He is on the other side of the hill. Like, it just is what it is. Like, even Jerry Rice couldn't outrun Father Time. I'm quite certain Cooper can't either.
Well, you got 2 legends there, wide receiver legends for the Seahawks, Jerry Rice and Cooper Kupp. So, Rice that year with Dilfer, he actually had a nice year. He had good production specifically for his age. He was really old at that point, and he had some nice production. And I think that's really what I'm after, is like, can he be even more impactful, even if it's on the edges, than last year? And Adam, I think your point of, hey, what he's really bringing is the fact that he's literally a coach on the field and in the entire team sees him that way. Cool. It worked last year, right? And that kind of thing is going to keep marinating. I like the idea that maybe he's getting sharper and therefore things might be picking up. But I also do believe that if he had the nagging injuries, maybe he did have some, and maybe he's just a little bit quicker. Maybe. Again, we're talking about edges here. It is preseason. Hey, I got you to say sure. I'll take it. All right. So, but that's the wide receivers. It's deep. It is a plenty, and there are not enough footballs to go around. And a guy like Foster, who is just absolutely kicking butt so far. We'll see what happens when there's games on. I'm sure he'll get a lot of play. We'll see. Can the Seahawks sneak a guy like that to the practice squad if he has a monster preseason? Now, usually in the NFL, most often, unless you're Drake Thomas and we snag him, most often you get all bent, or at least I do. I get all bent out of shape, and oh my God, is this guy going to get to the practice squad? And like 9 times out of 10, maybe even more, Adam, they do. They get to the practice squad somehow, and we just kind of keep them for another year of learning inside a system and an organization that clearly treats its players with a lot of priority.
Oh, for sure. And look, this year it might be a little tougher to sneak guys to the practice squad, considering that we are the reigning Super Bowl champions, and other teams like to pick off some guys that have been around that program and can maybe bring a little bit of that special sauce to their organization.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So that's wide receivers. We got 5 more topics. We could go to DBs and look at the flip side of that, or save that. Where do you want to go next? You're bored, dude.
Yeah, let's go to DBs, because it kind of goes hand in glove with the excellent receiver play that we've seen so far.
Yeah, so we've seen great receiver play, and I think again compared to last year and what Mike Macdonald is known for, and we get our glimpses into Hard Knocks, and we could listen to the same pundits that others listen to that have access, and the ESPNs of the world, et cetera, et cetera. The DB room, specifically the corners, look a little bit certainly less deep than last year. So level of concern, is it a major concern for you at this point? And is it a sign, if we're bringing in a Terrion Arnold for a visit, do you think there's a little bit of smoke here? And no, I'm not trying to make a smoke joke with Spokane going on, but not a joke, but is there a little to be concerned about because of these reports?
Spokane smoke jokes are too soon. Okay. I'm glad to know. I'm glad.
I just don't want anybody thinking I'm making a joke about Spokane, because that ain't cool.
Oh gosh, no. We all, look at those folks over there and wish for the best. We've got some wildfires raging right outside our place up here in the mountains. So, it's a little bit everywhere. Well, I'll get through it, no doubt. But the smoke that is coming from the VMAC regarding the DBs, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give this about a 4.
That's not nothing though.
That's not nothing.
Right.
But also too, our top 2 corners are Spoon and Job, and they can play Spoon outside, and that'd be just fine. Even though I said, as long as Emmanwori's back by week 8, like, we're fine. He's likely back before then, so that's gonna be fine. DeAnthony Bell's been having a nice camp, much to your delight, I'm sure, which is awesome. And also too, you've heard good things about Fuller being out there. The late round draft pick, or the late round.
I think it was 7th round. Fuller, pretty sure 7th round.
Undrafted, one of the 2. But he's had himself a nice camp, and then it feels like Neal's supposed to be back real quick, or
I think
soon.
Is.
Yeah. So there's answers there, and then also
there's potential answers there. We don't know yet, right? So in fairness, we don't. There's spins. There's spins there with some talent.
Absolutely, and we're not trying to fill 3 out of the 4 DB spots. We're trying to fill third corner.
But we do play third corners a lot. And if Emmanwori is out for a bit, and they have to do the things where it's Spoon playing nickel, et cetera, we play a lot of 3 DBs where we're nickel a ton and we're in dime some. And, so maybe it's some early season pressure. And I was thinking just today about this a little bit, maybe it's just a little bit of the cross you also bear when you have a season that goes as long as our season went. So you have a player like Emmanwori getting a surgery quite a bit later than they would have. Now you just take that and say, well, yeah, that's how it goes in the NFL. But it really does feel like Emmanwori is more than, he's only a rookie last year, but somehow such a keystone to allowing Macdonald to do what he wants to go do. And so that depth becomes at DB becomes it's under the microscope right away with the way the wide receivers are performing, and really the whole pass catching unit is performing so far in the preseason. So I'm not sure that I don't look at it right now and say, hey, I don't have like a lot of comfort, I guess, Adam, right now. If it's like, hey, if it's Pritchett starting as the third CB, that I'm like, okay, we're locked in, we're fine, and he won't get picked on at least a little bit. And I think he's progressing. I think year 2 to year 1 was much better, but still maybe not knocking socks off, I guess is the way to say it.
Well, if Pritchett's been able to stay with the team and stay on the roster, being a later round draft pick, wasn't he a 6th?
Well, it was the 5 and 6, right? Because they cut
the 2 kids from the same school.
Yeah, from Auburn, because they cut the other one. He went to the Patriots for a bit last year, and then Pritchett stuck. And even in the first year, it was like, oh, is he going to make the roster? And then he did. But to his credit, which is your point, now he's 2 years into making the roster, and he made some big plays last year. So, yeah. So,
and 2 years into being acclimated to Mike Macdonald's system and the rest of the players around him. And let us not forget too, there's other ways that they could go to try to alleviate this extra corner situation that is, to be honest, the weakest spot or the biggest question mark on the entire roster for the Seahawks. No doubt about it. That's why we're talking about it. But maybe they run a bunch more 3 safety stuff with Okada and Bud Clark. Like that's in range as well. And he's such a versatile piece and a dog that can play down by the line of scrimmage and as a ball hawk as well, and maybe play the back end. Like, yeah, exactly. To our, let's see. I always forget because it's not Andrea. It's I always forget who's attached to that account.
Me too. And I always feel bad. Sorry, I'm not great with names. I'm bad.
The
but
worst.
Yeah, just please put your first name in there, not Andrea's husband. Well, the Bud Clark piece is interesting too, because good point. But the Bud Clark piece, Mike McDonald clearly called him out a little bit at the presser after the scrimmage. And it was just simply, it really sounds like Bud's not there yet. Like he's right now. So it's still August, but right now he is not sniffing NFL time right now. He's competing for a backup spot. And it's not very clear if he'll be the backup safety right now. So, but there's a lot of time to go, including real football games where, hey, some dudes, I think it's Gruden or others that talk about this. You might remember the coach. I'm sure multiple coaches do. But some dudes, when the lights turn on, the physical lights turn on the field, the lights turn on upstairs, and things start to click. We might be talking in a couple days, watching the Cowboys game, be like, oh my gosh, Clark had a sack and an interception or something, something radical like that, where he pops off the field. It would not shock me if that's the case, Adam.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a reason why he was drafted where he was drafted. He's a talented player. And we are as a society so wired for instant success or instant failure.
Right.
And, if it's not that, then it's no good. And maybe it takes a minute for Bud Clark. Maybe we don't even see the best of Bud Clark till year 3. Still makes it a great draft pick, and I'm just saying that there's bodies, there's talent, there's different ways that a mastermind like Mike McDonald can work around the idea of having one of your corners be a little weaker than it was last year, potentially, because let us not forget, it's not like they're replacing the perfect corner who never made massive mistakes in huge moments.
That's true.
Right.
Look, to Riq Woolen, very good cover corner, man-to-man corner most times, but then you have egregious mistakes, which cause a lot of consternation. Right. And you got to remember too, the NFL, of all the teams, gave him a 1-year, $15 million deal where this guy talent-wise looked like he'd be rolling into a second contract for multiple years at I would say maybe not double, but somewhere into the 20s for his talent level, which was met with just some gaffes on the field. And we do have Josh DeHuman, who's on screen here, saying AJ Finley was great. Yeah. Josh was out there recently with a slew of Seahawks pundits, and Josh is going to be on the show, we think, Wednesday, to come on and tell us all about what he saw out at FanFest and his training camp visit. So we're excited to have him out there as well. Josh, interesting to hear. AJ Finley was great. I heard the interception he got was like a really bad ball that should never be thrown type thing. So I just wonder if it's like more than just a ball that shouldn't have been thrown. Cool, you made a play. Very cool. But was there more to the AJ Finley being great than making a pick that the ball should not have been thrown? So, but Adam, I do want to segue. You said something about a guy getting, maybe even better in year 3. I'd like to talk about a guy that might be ascending into year 4. You probably know who I'm talking about because he's a big, literally, physically, a very big human.
Yeah, I mean, this is year 3 for Murphy, though, right? Not year 4.
Oh no, I was going across the line.
You're going across the line, or you're going for Big Anthony in a contract year?
I was talking about Bradford. We're talking about, we could, right. That's how good and deep and young this team is. We could have, and we are going to talk about Murph in a second, but I wanted to go across the line and go to the offensive side of the ball and say, Anthony Bradford, I'll say it quickly as I can and toss it to you. Look, we all know the gaffes. Speaking of gaffes, we see them on Twitter also, and he misses this block. He's turned around. He stops during a play sometimes. And then he plays, as we start to run the ball really, really well down the line, plays pretty darn clean and just gets better and better and better into year 3, helps us win a Super Bowl. Year 3 was better than year 2. Year 2 was better than year 1. And if you're listening to, again, the pundits that are out there watching with their eyes, they're saying, hey, there are days out there and weeks where Bradford looks like the most capable lineman out there with a unit that's together for year 2. Adam, am I bullish on Anthony Bradford? Because I think I'm blushing about it, man. I think I might be bullish. What do you think?
It's interesting because I think this happens in all facets of life where the pendulum swings one way so dramatic that I knew it was Nick. God damn it.
For our audio listeners, we just found out that it's Nick on YouTube there. So Nick, thank you,
in Andrew Springer's husband's account there. Yeah. All right. So anyways, the pendulum does seem to swing really hard when things kind of go to a more extreme end of things. And last year, I think that all of us can agree, and it's not trying to dump on a Super Bowl championship player in right guard Anthony Bradford, but he was overall the most inconsistent in the weakest link of the offensive line.
Correct.
And so he got the largest amount of crap. And then when you're a massive human, the way that he is, that when you do have a whiff, it looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
And it's hard to hide, right? And so the hate had just like poured out towards Anthony Bradford, even through the offseason and the draft and all of that. Now, I feel as if the pendulum is almost overcorrecting, back to the other way. And like to Brandon's point here in the chat, most capable, are we sure? Yeah, there we go, Brandon. Oh, Bradford can elevate to okay and still be the weakest. Like, exactly. I think we're overcorrecting a little bit here. And some of the media that covered him throughout last season feels a little bit guilty for taking his name through the mud a little bit more than maybe he deserved. Now, that doesn't mean that he didn't have bad moments and he was the weakest. Like, he was. Like, he just was. And two things can be true at the same time, Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
He's gotten better each and every single year. And not that it's always a continual, upward trajectory to awesomeness.
Right.
But you should expect that Anthony Bradford, another year in this system, looks a bit better. He is clearly the strongest of the linemen from everybody who does seem to watch him up close in camp. I know Dave Wyman can't get enough talking about, Anthony Bradford throwing people around like ragdolls, but I think he's always going to struggle a bit in this system to a degree when you're reliant on zone schemes and being quick and moving laterally and things like that. That's going to be tough for him. It's just his body type. It's always is. Now, if they get a lot more into power and duo and things like that throughout the year, that's going to play to his strengths. So he definitely seems to have a stranglehold on the job. It sounds like Bo Stevens, according to Gray Zabel, better than him when he's come into camp this year, not seriously pushing for the job. And Christian is an afterthought. So
the UConn slander for Christian Haynes. Hey, look, there's reports out there that Christian Haynes is having a better camp, right? So again, we'll see. Hey, that's all good. If there's more competition there, more the better. I think for me, it's simply I've kind of gotten won over by Bradford's like you said, it's not a linear progression because usually progress is not linear that way, but slow and steady bettering. And I also just really appreciate that after now 3 years of this, you don't hear the dude yapping off on social media ever. He's
No,
never out there.
I don't think he cares.
I don't think so either. He's not out there complaining. He's
Yeah.
not out there like arguing with people. Whether he's thick skinned or just is like, it just blocks it out completely. After 3 years of it, I can at least as a human be like, okay, I appreciate that he's just focused on getting better. And seemingly, I think he is. I like your points about, hey, with Sundell and Zabel and others like that, and Cross being different types of athletes. Abe, a very good athlete, but also just a stronger dude himself, the right side being a little different than the left side, for sure. I like the point, though, that, hey, with what we want to run, Bradford is likely never going to be the most fleet of foot looking out there. But that's okay. That is absolutely okay. Again, if you are a competent guard in the NFL and you're not drawing lots of penalties and you're limiting your mistakes, plus you're on a successful team and nobody's really talking about you, that'd be very nice. So I like the progress for Bradford. It's good to hear that he's getting a little bit of love in camp this year. Maybe he just kind of turns into this Seahawks darling. Cause like, look, I think he's a dude that at the end of it, let's say he has a okay to good year, like okay to good. And you could go resign him. And it's not like you don't got to break the bank and you keep him in a system where it's like, oh, or you do the James Carpenter thing or others where you let them go to organizations and they kept getting better.
Yeah.
It's like, did we get him to a point and then say, okay, bye-bye. And he's going to sign an okay contract somewhere else, or maybe he earns the right, I guess, looking forward to get a second contract with Seattle, which if you rewind the clock 18 months ago, this conversation, I don't think would be happening.
It would sound absurd if if you had rewound the clock to 18 months ago. And with that said, Josh was talking in the comments here regarding, him getting a second contract and in all of that. No, I'm kind of with him on this. Look, John said one of the things that he learned the most from after the first Super Bowl run with the LOB guys is that you just can't keep everyone.
Right.
And Ken Walker's a great example of this, like really good player. Is he one of your exceptional heartbeat players of this team? No. Okay. Then he has to go. Right. And you got to figure out a way to replace him if you can. Because the sad truth is that if Anthony Bradford plays to a mid-ish level throughout this year, which is pretty close to where he was last year, like he wasn't a complete dumpster fire by any stretch.
Nope.
45% of the teams out there want him. And you're going to be outbid. You're not going to be able to afford to keep him. And that's okay. That's okay. And I hope Anthony Bradford gets a freaking bag after this year. Keep getting them checks, brother. And I can't wait to see what two-time Super Bowl champion Anthony Bradford gets on the open market.
Love it. Okay, great way to close out for him. We discussed, so now we got Murph and we got three more topics: Murph, Milroe, or the mystery injury for Ouzts and how that might impact things. Where do you want to go?
Let's get bummer things out of the way first. Let's get the Ouzts thing out of the way. I think we're all still learning to decode Mike a little bit, even though he's very forthright as a whole, but he doesn't give away the farm either when he talks. And the presser, when he's talked about initially Ouzts' injury and then asked in the subsequent one, any updates, he's just like, no. That was discouraging to me. That sounded like, oh no, are we talking about another neck thing? Are we talking about something that's going to make it so that, fullback of the future is not Robbie Ouzts? Like that's my gut feel on it with no information, anything like that. But it stinks because, Fleury, with his exposure to Shanahan for as many years as he has, it seems as if fullback was going to be a big part of what he wants to do, similar to the way that Shanahan uses use check.
For sure. I agree on the usage. And like Ouzts started the season last year, I thought actually a little rougher. And he was like my favorite guy coming in. I'm like, I love this guy. I love the stash. I love everything. I did a hype video for the guy. Like I'm excited. I'm excited that we took this tight end convert, and I'll get into the athleticism comparison in a second. But I thought last year he was targeting a little bit awkwardly on the move, not as smooth as I thought he would be. Then he got injured. Then he came back. And I thought that second time around, which, oh, by the way, you could get better, especially as a rookie. But the second time that he got his chances, I was like, oh man, he's markedly better already. And this is coming off an injury. And then he gets dinged again. And you know, that was kind of a sad way for him to end the year. And he's still got some seemingly lingering things going on there. We'll see. Now we bring in Brock Lampy, and Brock Lampy's a fullback that was Northern Illinois. So he was playing for Coach Hammock when Coach Hammock was the head coach there, who's now the running back coach, who's getting all the love or hate, depending on what side you're on, for the Hard Knocks. And
is he getting crap for?
Well,
for
just
that?
like some are like, man, he's just out there not really coaching, just like F-bombs everywhere. And some others are like, I love this guy. This is my guy. I love exactly how he's talking to the running back room. So it's a little tale of two cities with your perception of Coach Hammock. But they bring in Lampy. So I went out today and looked at some of the metrics. I was like, okay, what are we getting with Brock Lampy? In case folks don't know who this dude is yet, he was a UDFA that signed with the Patriots. Now he signs with the Seahawks, but again, he played under Coach Hammock as head coach at Northern Illinois. But 6'1", 250, real fast for a 6'1", 250 guy running a 4.62. But here's the thing, Adam. Ouzts is 6'3", 275, runs a bit slower, but all the explosives for Ouzts, like the things that I think matter in terms of bench, in terms of like broad, his just jumping ability, which is explosiveness, those things that just show sheer athleticism at 6'3", 275. Brock Lampy is very much like another Brady Russell. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think there's a bit of like froth around Brock Lampy. And I'm like, okay, maybe we'll see. I hope he's awesome. But like to pretend that he's the athlete that Ouzts is, size-wise and explosive-wise, the data just says something different. So wanted to kind of point that out there. I want Brock Lampy to light it up. We can light the lamp against the Cowboys and see it, but I'm not sold just yet that this dude could replace Ouzts if Ouzts is indeed injured for a while.
So you don't love Lamp, you know? Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah. With that said, I think anybody who's making a proclamation one way or the other about what this human can do with this team, I mean, you can make it. You're welcome to do it. It's a free country. First Amendment's around for a reason, but you don't know what you're talking about because you couldn't possibly, because none of us do. And so we'll see. He definitely falls into the hard telling, not knowing category. And honestly, he may have better instincts at the position too, even if he doesn't have the size that Ouzts has. I mean, you talked about the transition Ouzts was making, and we all have to remember he was playing tight end in college. He wasn't a fullback. So learning something new at the highest level. Can you imagine going to the highest level of marketing, Clinton, like the highest thing in the entire land, and they're like, you know how you always dealt with graphics? Well, now you're a copy editor, and you got to do it at the highest level. It'd be hard to do, right? If you've never been a copy editor,
it would take a little while, right? It would take a little while. So
same thing. So I don't know. Wait and see on the fullback position. I'm not sold on Brady Russell being the fullback just because of size and kind of history and things like that. Love the human.
Yeah, great.
Not sure that he's the perfect fit for fullback, but again, with all of the different weapons that you had mentioned earlier in the podcast, when from the tight end room specifically, Fleury's got a lot of toys to play with, and he may end up in 12, 13 personnel a lot more than he does 22. So, or even 21. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we will see. Preseason will show us some more. I mean, at the end of all of that, I mean, man, let's just hope that Ouzts is not that injured and he could get back. And I think my overarching point on that one is that I think Ouzts is a different type of athlete than anybody else they have in that position on the current roster. And if he is healthy, I think his ceiling as a fullback is really, really high, really high. So, let's get the best guy back there. And then I was thinking about Nick Kallerup. We keep hearing that Kallerup's having a good camp as like this 3-4 tight end. And how many tight ends are we actually going to keep? And he's 6'5", he's 266, but he can move he's a good blocker as a tight end. So the last idea about fullback is I just wonder if they've even discussed it in the hall, saying, could Nick do what Ouzts did last year? I mean, again, these are good athletes. A change is hard, but if they want the Ouzts style guy, they maybe have one in the wings with Kallerup that is similarly sized and a good athlete on his own right. So just one last thought on that side.
Well, all right. One last thought.
Yeah, sure.
Conspiracy Adams here. And I think that they're holding on to the Ouzts information until the next episode of Hard Knocks.
Oh, okay. You want the drama. You want the drama.
I think
because nothing sells more than fullbacks, baby, with stashes. That's
and this fan base who's primarily watching Hard Knocks and a guy like Robbie Ouzts with that mustache and what he could possibly mean in this scheme. The beautiful thing is, I'm knocking on all the wood. Like, that's one of the biggest injuries we're talking about to this point. And so it seems like to me that there could be an upside and no real downside to holding that information like your Kyle Shanahan and not releasing it until like 11 days later. But this time for Hard Knocks instead of to Chris Sims.
Yes, I was driving my Tesla, which was driving itself, and I reached my phone, but it's maybe my fault, but maybe not my fault. Yeah, way to come clean, Kyle. All right, so let's go to Milroe because let's save Murphy for last if you're okay with that, because sure. I know you want to talk Milroe. I'll just pass it to you as simply as that. Having a nice camp. What are you seeing, hearing? What do you think Seattle's thinking? Because if we're talking about fullbacks and fourth tight ends, Milroe matters to that conversation a lot because carrying three quarterbacks is not what most NFL teams do, Adam.
They don't, but John Schneider's not most GMs. And one of the number one things that he learned from Ron Wolf at his time with Green Bay, and go back and think about those quarterback rooms for a minute and the names that were a part of that.
Not bad.
I mean, you know about the big ones. You can even go back and think about like Mark Brunell and Ty Detmer and like, guys who could play quarterback in this league. Look, they're going to keep three quarterbacks. And they're definitely not trading Jalen Milroe anytime soon, as much as the national media wants to trade him away desperately. I think it's absolutely fascinating to hear many of the same folks who talked about what he looked like in the limited times that they saw him in OTAs, change their narrative completely from he'll never figure it out. He can't hit the broadside of a barn from 12 feet. And, but he sure is fast to, oh my goodness, like he's playing on time and in rhythm and is hitting all layers of the field. And I thought Nemhauser did a very nice job, kind of tracking his progress through a few sequential days, which I think is more important than just being like, dude, look good today.
Right.
Being like, he's stacking this. And, one of the things Brian kept talking about was, Milroe's ability to hit things over the middle, which he is correct about. He is very good throwing over the middle of the field, but he often talked about how he's not good outside the numbers. And I was like, well, that's true on deep stuff. But if you're talking about outs and things like that, then that's incorrect. He did that well in college and he could do it from the far hash, near hash. It didn't make never mind, because dude's got an absolute hose, bigger hose than maybe the hose. So at the end of the day, it is fascinating and gratifying and exciting to hear that people are starting to see that when you get somebody with that kind of talent and a guy who is an accurate quarterback who suffered bouts of inaccuracy, not an inaccurate quarterback that could occasionally find a couple stretches of, hot streaks, what that guy looks like when he's had real deal NFL coaching for his first full offseason as a professional. And then to top it all off, Clinton, our good buddy Dan Vians from Seahawks Forever, right? And also Sleeper Seahawks. He's doing that now as well. So congrats to him on that, which is really awesome. Check him out. But, Dan seeing him over a couple days and being like, my God, he's hitting everything. Might have been best quarterback on the field. And this is such a massive deal for this team because of the upcoming potential Sam Darnold deal here in the next year or so. And it just gives you flexibility, right? Like if you decide, if you're John Snyder, you're like, yeah, no, I'm still going to give Darnold a bag and we're going to roll with him for the next 4 or 5 years. Now you have a legitimate trade chip that has looked good in a preseason, looked good in a couple training camps, that has some experience with a Super Bowl caliber team that you can then flip into a high draft pick and help to replenish the cupboards. Or John could look at it and say, look, I really like this mid-tier quarterback money and what that allows me to do in terms of building a defense for my defensive-minded head coach so that we can win Super Bowls that way. And you let Sam go get a bigger bag somewhere else, and you enjoy his time here, and you wish him nothing but the best. And then you roll with the young kid who looks like he's raring to go. So this is such a big development for this organization because of what that asset could mean. And also, told you so.
I was waiting for that for about, I love it. So I'm not going to add too much to Milroe because you said it and said it well. And you also properly named some of the pundits out there that are watching it that had access are like, he's stacking those days, which is really impressive. So I won't add there. What I will ask you, and I'll pivot it for a second, still in the Milroe topic is, did you see which NFL quarterback retired today?
I did not.
So he's a dude you like. Mr. One Glove himself, or maybe two gloves, Teddy Bridgewater. So Bridgewater. Yeah. So I bring it up not because I know you're a Bridgewater fan, and he's a very competent, had I'd say a good NFL career, maybe not quite the ceiling that was expected when he was coming out of college, but he had terrible injury luck, but he still had a good NFL career. But he's on a Lions team, right? So you got Jared Goff, and I don't know who their third or now second is. So maybe they have somebody in the wings. I'm just not thinking about. That's fine. But if Milroe is truly taking this kind of step forward, which it sounds like he is, and everything you just said, would it not make a little bit of sense to clear a roster spot and maybe pick up the phone and see if the Lions are interested in a player like Drew Lock? Like, do you think it's too soon to pull that plug? Or it's like, you know what? There's a need. You need look, this is a Lions team that thinks it's still in the Super Bowl window. And they might be, but they certainly think they are. Okay. Giving them a solid quarterback that if Goff goes down for 4 to 6 weeks, who could go in a dome and throw the ball around to Amon-Ra and Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay. So I'm just interested to hear your take on, might it be time I'm not interested in shopping Milroe, and I love the hose, but is it time to maybe shop the hose?
I would say in this case, because it's always, these sort of questions have completely different answers for many different teams, depending on where you are in the life cycle of a team, in, an era, a window, however it is that you want to put it. I was going to say smack dab in the middle of, but honestly, I think we're at the beginning of a huge window here with legitimate Super Bowl, I'm going to say favorites rather than aspirations, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they don't just have aspirations. They're favorites, and they ought to be. They're the defending Super Bowl champions, and they didn't get worse this offseason. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, do I want a guy to come in and take over for a potential Super Bowl year if, heaven forbid, Sam gets hurt, that has never done it before at the NFL level? Or do I want somebody that's been around the league and has seen it all and is comfortable and secure in his place in the world and really understands the speed of the game, the league, and that sort of thing? I want that vet, I think, at that point. So I think it is too soon to think about getting rid of Drew Lock. Plus, like, I mean, what are you going to get for him? A fourth?
Well, in a draft class that's supposedly loaded, right? So, fourth round, again, supposedly better talent than there was this year. There was a coveting. Hey, we have 12 picks. Nice number. 12 picks heading into next year. That's on purpose. That's not by accident. So, the scouts could look at the batch and be like, okay, the overall picture is there's a lot of talents in there, but maybe a fourth. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting topic. I'm not hearing others talk about it. Yeah. And I'm just, if it was, hey, I'm not saying this is we have a binary choice here, but if the choice was move on from Milroe at this point or go get something for Lock with a team that's in need for a vet backup QB, I would just take the latter every single day of the week. And I just think it might be interesting. Look, if Milroe goes out and absolutely balls for 2 straight weeks, and let's say it's 2 weeks, let's say it's 3 weeks from today, and we're on a conversation on a Sunday night about to head into week 3, preseason week 3, it might be fun to revisit that very same question. That's what I'm proposing at this point.
I can already tell you what I'll say. Make Milroe QB2 and keep Drew Lock at 3.
Okay.
Like, is it better to be QB rich or QB poor?
QB rich and with 53, with the depth we're talking about, with dudes that are 6'7" deep in wide receiver room, and the tight ends, the running back, there's a lot of talent on this team that it's not a vacuum either, right? So if you have your two dudes and you have some practice squad guys, your two QBs, and you get to then keep on the 53 a guy that you're really, really not wanting to expose, there is more that comes with that trade than just saying, would you rather have 3 QBs or 2 QBs? You get to keep a piece that you're not exposing that you really believe should be on the 53. I don't know who that is, but I think that person would matter, of course.
So if you're talking about wide receiver 6 or QB 3, which is more valuable?
It could be wide receiver 6 in
negative.
It could be, because wide receiver 3 may never, ever play. And wide receiver 6, there might be 2 injuries and the dude becomes a star. It's like, there's no way that's ever the possibility, because that is a possibility.
Which position group is worth more to the league, quarterbacks or wide receivers?
I understand what you're getting at. I'm just saying it's not in a vacuum, dude. I'm just saying, like, hey, if they do only keep 2 and they got back a trade chip, then you're like, okay, we got a 4th and we kept a dude that we really thought was probably going to get plucked because we're so freaking deep. So that's the equation of like maybe a 4th, maybe a 5th in a good looking draft, and a dude retained on the 53 that you're like, I think is going to make an impact, that we don't have to keep wasting call-up spots from a practice squad if you really want that, give that guy some NFL snaps. So it's just not in a vacuum is all I'm saying. So it could be in a week or 2, it might be interesting to revisit this conversation if Milroe is ripping, which would be a really cool outcome and a cool conversation.
It would be. I'm looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite things to be watching for throughout this preseason. But I can pretty much tell you right now, Clinton, there's no universe in which I'm going to tell anybody we should keep Emmanuel Henderson Jr. instead of Drew Lock.
Okay.
No.
I got you. I understand. It could be Emmanuel Henderson Jr. and a 4th, and so this again, it's not just the dude. It's a package that could be there. I'm in no rush to get rid of the hose. I think he's a perfectly cromulent NFL backup who I believe in a stretch, and we've seen it, could play pretty darn good football in the right system. He could throw the freaking ball around the yard, and I'm in no rush to get rid of the guy. And I want to give Milroe the time that this organization seems primed to give him to see what he could become. So I'm okay. If that's the outcome, I'm fine with it. Just tossing out the concept that maybe John wants another bite at the apple come next year because he likes those picks. Clearly, he's already amassed 12 of them. All right, we have one more topic, bud. We're going to talk Byron Murphy. So we talked about the ascension, the gradual, slow and steady plodding ascension earlier of Anthony Bradford. It's not the antithesis because it's still progress, but more like the rocket ship progress from year 1 to year 2 of Byron Murphy, and heading into year 3. There's a lot in my brain, Adam, that goes, man, not just the reports, but the makeup of what this dude's entering, like his environment as a year 3 player, to me, kind of screams he might have an absolute monster season that's even bigger and better than maybe what we think his ceiling can be. How are you feeling about Murphy going into year 3?
I've talked about this a bunch on the last couple of shows, so I'm more curious to get a little bit more of your take actually on this, Clinton, but I want to start it with a question.
Sure.
Which is the more surprising and quick rise to superstardom, or maybe the least surprising is the way to put it, Witherspoon or Murphy?
Wait, okay. So which one's less surprising?
Yeah.
I think Spoon's less surprising. And here's why.
Okay.
And because I think they're like, Murphy was very good on tape in college, but the sacks were not there even in college. So it was like, oh, are we just getting a good defensive tackle who's stout, his stature, 6'1"-ish, 6 foot. And the sacks were not there in college yet, but it was like, okay, clearly this dude's strong as an ox, and he was on a very good defensive line with the Longhorns. Spoon was jump off the tape every single week. Like, that guy's taking heads off. And so coming down and crashing from the cornerback position, like a clear, great tackler, like loves contact. and was clearly versatile in a really strong Illinois team that year as well. So I think it was less surprising Spoon has had this ascension, but it's not like surprising that Murphy is where he is going to year 3 for me.
Yeah, because I thought about this a little bit, and honestly, like JSN's ascension to super duper stardom, well, not again, and let me put the baseline on this so
Right.
they're all, yeah,
these
like,
are like
everybody said these are quality picks, like we're excited about them. I wasn't.
These are all high first rounders we're talking about here, right?
So right at the time, I wasn't stoked about the JSN pick because he didn't play D tackle when we desperately needed one. Turns out we got the one we're talking about now the next year. So, but with that said, like a lot of people looked at JSN and was like, inside guy. I don't know that he can play outside. Right. And like, so his ascension to like being legitimately 1, 2, or 3, depending on how you look at it, best receiver in the league or number 3 best receiver in the league. That there is some surprise there. Right. To me, Spoon's a little bit more surprising because, than Murphy, because just the size, right? Like that was the one thing you looked at on screen. It's like, you're not physically imposing and you play with this, extra 30 pounds on your shoulder pad somehow that you run through people with, and can you hold up? And, he didn't test like off the charts, right? Like he wasn't one of those workout marvels. He's a freaking football player, And so like, there's some legitimate questions to be had when, he was drafted, although I loved the pick at the time. And obviously we all love it now. To me, it's Byron Murphy is the least surprising. Like when you look at what he did at Texas and the explosiveness and the strength, and then not only that, but the leverage because of his build, right? He plays so low and he wins the leverage right out of the gate every single time, a little like Puna Ford, but on Aaron Donald type, level. And I mean, when I saw him in, kind of started studying him after the pick was made, to me, it was like, oh yes, all of this forever. He's going to be a super duper star. And so as we talk about his rise and the quick ascension through just two years in the league now going into the third, to me personally, I'm like, oh yeah, right on schedule. And they can talk all about Aaron Donald coming back, 89-year-old Aaron Donald who hasn't played in 3 years, and how he's going to come back and be at the same, first ballot Hall of Fame level that he was when he retired. They can do that. They're welcome to do it. I mean, everybody lives in delusion in some way or another, and that's fine. I'm really excited about the guy who is the next at that position and is just beginning to scratch his prime and has the attitude to be able to unlock it. Byron Murphy's ascension over the last couple of years, and then hearing like what he's going through in terms of his goals and, what he's trying to get to in pass rush situations. It's fucking exciting, dude. Like there's no other way to put it. That's the type of guy that, I mean, we saw the impact that prime Aaron Donald had for the Rams defense. That's what we're witnessing now with Byron Murphy. And he still has Leo and DeMarcus and Riley Mills and Jared Reed and like all that around him. It's outrageous. And I couldn't be more giddy about it.
Yeah. So I echo all that. And in the sense that I think that year 3, it's like year 2 is really, I mean, it's for him to not make Pro Bowl or no All Pro, no Pro Bowl, which I think what we do want to talk about too, is like, he has he's actively out there, like, a little chip on his shoulder being like, you need to pay attention to me out here. And seemingly his training and just the maturation. And again, the team he's got around him, like adding a player like Riley Mills. Yes, year 2, but not really, like adding a Riley Mills. And it's just all bubbling up to like, this dude could take another step, which is already at an incredibly high level. And the Texas stuff is just that the sacks were not there. That's all. And they're high variance anyway, but the sacks,
especially for that position, right?
Yeah, that's, of course, defensive tackle. You're not really supposed to go get double-digit sacks or 8 or 9 or 12 or 14 sacks from playing a 0-1 or sometimes scooching over to the 3. You're just not. But also, by the way, while you're going down to one knee to take on 2 dudes so that you could keep, Ernest Jones super clean so he can get a tackle for a loss or a tackle or 2-yard gain or stuff like that. So he just does it all. Of all the players, I don't know who I'm most excited about to watch this year. It's not even like watch. It's just more like monitor And those are different things, but
Ooh.
they really are different things. But to monitor like what he's going to do this year, I just feel that it's coming to this head of superstardom where he's going to be like, your refusal to watch my body of work the first 2 seasons, year 1 was good, year 2 was damn good. And like the refusal for the NFL wide to really recognize him as a superstar, I think he took that personally, Adam. I think he's taking it personally. And I think he's going to have one of these like too big to fail type things. Like, you no longer get the right to ignore what I did this season. That's the kind of season I think he's shaping up to produce. And I think that means really good things for our Seahawks. I'm just very high on him as ascension into being a leader also through that play. While you have dudes like Leo and D-Law and Reed who are on the, let's say, last third of their careers, great careers. That's kind of where I put him, man. He's going to be so exciting to kind of, I keep using that word monitor because it just feels like I don't need to watch him every single, like, I'm going to watch every game, Adam. I'm going to watch every single play. I don't got to worry about him, but I want to watch the little things that's making him into that superstar that I think he's going to become.
Well, good luck catching it because he's so damn quick for that size. And I think one of the things you touched on is, I took that personal. I mean, he has that Jordan mentality, right?
Yeah.
And you can see it oozes off the screen in his interviews. And I think he'll take it even a step further if you no longer have the right to overlook me. I am taking away the option that you're going to overlook me. There will be no overlooking me. You cannot do it and have eyeballs. Like it will be impossible. And I'm here for it, man. One of my favorite players. Love the draft pick. Love what that means to build your team that way from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, having him as your interior anchor for the next 10 years, terrorizing every NFC West quarterback. Yes, please. I cannot wait.
It's going to be very fun when he's chasing Carson Beck for the next decade because Carson Beck,
who?
Clearly the king of the
preseason.
He
played great in the Hall of Fame game, and I was in the starting conversation over Brisket. Okay.
I love it. That was a lot of fun. Hey, so we went through the 6 categories. We did news and notes, and I want to remind folks, so Tuesday night, so Hard Knocks episode 2 will be out, and we'll be live directly as soon as that is over on HBO. Come back here. We'll be live. So make sure you're subscribing out on YouTube so you know exactly when we are going live. Wednesday, it sounds like we've got to button it up. Make sure it's cool with Brandon as well. But Wednesday, we're looking to have Josh Haidt on, and he was out at the camp just this last couple of days. So have some like live reporting. What did he see? What was looking good for him out there? So we're excited to have Josh on. And then we got tons more coming up. Plus, Adam, we have a real football game versus the Dallas Cowboys that's coming up this week that we get to prep and then talk about.
Dude, it's back. It's back. It's here. It's time. I can't wait. And I can't wait to have to talk about training camp reports. I can't wait to stop having to break down press conferences and look for meaning through all of the coach speak that everybody uses these days. I cannot wait to watch the Seahawks go out and whip the Cowboys' ass and see Shoddy go home sad. Even though I like Shoddy, you're going home sad.
He's going home big sad. Look, you got to get in the Discord. Head over to getintheflock.com. I think it's $5 a month now, but you become a member of the Discord. That's on fire. And if Discord's not your thing, but you still want to contribute to the show because it brings you joy and entertainment, maybe a little bit enlightenment, then go ahead and do that there as well. Follow, like, subscribe. Let's get ready for Seahawks football. I cannot wait. Adam, I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.